Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to your September horoscopes for your zodiac sign. Now, this is how you're going to read for your sign. You're going to read first for your rising sign. If you do not know your rising sign, you want to go on a free 99 website like AstroSeek or astro.com. You punch in your data, your date of birth, location, and time, and then you will see your rising sign, which is also the ascendant. Then you're going to read for your ascendant sign. This is how I do the monthly forecasts because this will give you a bigger picture of where the transits are going through your own personal houses. Now, as a disclaimer, like always, this is based on just your rising sign. There's other things to take into consideration, like if you have any natal placements in and around the degrees that I mention. Another thing to keep in mind is that not all transits will impact you because they just won't. Like, that's why you want to look at the degree of the transit and if you have any placements around that specific transit. Try not to get into this mindset of, is this good or bad? Because only you can perceive of something as good or bad. Something that might be a challenging aspect for me or its transit might actually be something that ends up being a blessing in disguise later on. So I try not to say what is good or bad. I'll say, this is an auspicious day to start something. This might bring blessings down the road. This is a challenging transit that you might need to lean into, or you might be triggered on this day. That's how I try to do the forecast so that you are prepared and you're not blindsided by certain things that might happen. You also have to take into consideration your profection year, so your time lord, different like midlife transits. You know, there's people going through their Saturn return right now, which is a different experience than if you weren't going through a Saturn return. Some people are going through their midlife transits. They're going through their simultaneous Pluto and Neptune square. So there's all these different layers to take into consideration when you listen to this. And like I said, collectively, 2025, we're all going through massive changes. We're all being asked to show up in different ways to really work through our own bullshit, to heal our trauma. And then individually, we can narrow that down to certain things that we are going to be focusing on in our own transits. So, if you want to learn more about your own specific natal chart, I am teaching Astrology 101. I opened up my star school that starts October 6th. It's a 12-week class. We meet for 2 hours every Monday between 12 and 2 p.m. And I'm going to teach you how to read your natal chart so that when you listen to the transits and you remember, oh, I have a 5-degree sun in Aries. So then next year, the Saturn and Neptune conjunction in Aries is going to impact me. Stuff like that. It's really important to understand your natal chart when you listen to these transits, because like I said, not all transits are going to impact you. And also not all transits impact people the same way. So that is one way you can go deeper with me. And I mean, obviously you're listening to this. So if you are a Patreon member, you're getting this at the top of the month. If you want to become a Patreon member so that you could receive this in the beginning of the month versus like when it's, we're already going into mid-month, then you can be in the North Node. I believe I call it the North Node tier. It's $10 a month. And you can also listen to the monthly forecast that I do with Stephanie Campos, which we go day by day, every single day of the month. In these monthly transits, I only really talk about the ones that would impact your rising sign, the most important ones. Obviously, the 2 lunations and any of your chart rulers, your planetary ruler changing signs or making significant aspects. If you want to come along with me every week in the forecast where I break it down day by day, that's free 99 on YouTube. But if you want to support my work, you can join the first tier of my Patreon, which you just pay $5. I think it's $5.55 a month to support my work. So that is how to engage with the content of the monthly forecasts. I obviously can't answer all of the questions you have if you are not a Patreon member. This is another benefit of being a member because if you're not a Patreon member and you're watching it in the general public, you're already catching this forecast in like mid-month when I've already, spent a lot of time putting this out for my Patreon members. So they get first priority. And then if you're watching just the clips of it, just know that I post the clips for marketing purposes, but there's a whole month of transits that give context to your experience. Because there were a couple of people that just watched the clips last month and they were like, yeah, but I'm a Libra rising and this Venus Cancer conjunction in my 10th house is not auspicious for me. I just got fired from my job. But if you had watched the full month forecast, I said that Venus and Jupiter, just because they're both benefics, doesn't mean that it's all going to be like rainbows and butterflies. So those are the disclaimers. Thank you so much for being here and thank you so much for supporting my work. Let's get to your sign. Hello, Libra risings. Welcome to your September forecast. How are y'all doing? So your chart ruler, Venus, will change signs from Leo to Virgo. So it'll go from your 11th house to your 12th house. Now, in September, for everybody, this is a month of clearing and releasing and moving towards more of what I would say, our soul is destined to understand, which is that we are all connected. We all have a spiritual gift and purpose. Now, for you, Virgo is your 12th house. And obviously, Libra is your first house, and Scorpio is your second house. So all of the planetary ingresses will have a concentration of your 12th house, which is the house of the unknown, the unseen, self-undoing, isolation and rest. And then you'll go to your first house after the equinox on September 22nd. And then Mars will go into your second house, which will bring you the focus of your personal finances. So, yeah, I think we can just start by talking about September 1st, Saturn retrograde will re-enter the sign of Pisces. Now, Aries has been in your seventh house of one-on-one partnerships since earlier this year. I think it was March or May. Oh yeah, yeah. I have too many things in my brain. Let's see, when was it? Okay, Neptune entered Aries on March 30th. And that means that this was May, I think. Yes, May 24th, Saturn entered Aries in your seventh house of partnership. So since May, June, August, July, August, 4 months of having both Saturn and Neptune in your seventh house, which is an angular house. So if you are a Libra rising in and around like 0 to 5 degrees, you were having Saturn and Neptune on your descendant. How was that? What was that experience like for you? What did you notice? Because that was like a glimpse of what the transit will mean for you. 3 years for Saturn and 14 years for Neptune. Now, Saturn might have been will probably give you a little bit of a break as it moves into a cadent house, the sixth house. And it's finishing up its story in your sixth house of your work environment, your health habits, your daily rituals and habits. The sixth house is a house where you don't want to get burnt out. You want to work smarter, not harder. This is the house that if you do the ritual, then what did my teacher say? Sam Reynolds said, if you do the ritual and let God do the work, then you don't have to burn yourself out as much. Um, so Saturn is finishing up its story in the sixth house. I actually like Saturn when it goes into the Canaan houses because it helps you kind of like get real about maybe some habits or habits specifically in regards to the sixth house that have might not been good for you. Some of you might have been really focused on your health, your mental health, the ways in which um some of the things that you do on a day-to-day basis is just not helpful to you. Maybe you've been looking into the fact that maybe you're working too much or you're not actually resting when you need to. Having the South Node in Virgo transiting through your 12th house would have made you kind of address these issues. Like, when am I allowing myself to rest and rejuvenate? When am I surrendering to the divine? And when am I just working because it's compensating for my fear and my sense of lack and insecurity? On September 2nd, Mercury will go into Virgo, which is again your 12th house. So Virgo season for you is always going to be a season of releasing and letting go, of purging and really addressing some of the things I just mentioned about the sixth house. When you're in a 12th house season, this is a time of isolating yourself for the sole purpose of rejuvenation and recuperation. The 12th house is an area where we deal with things of like an unknown nature, of a foreign nature, right? Which is how do we deal with things that we are like unfamiliar with? When life is so unpredictable and unknown, how do we deal with those kind of things? For a lot of you with Uranus going through your ninth house, this could be sparking up this need for some spiritual grounding or something to reconnect you with something bigger in your life. But Mercury is exalted in Virgo. So whatever things you do discover about like if it's not spirituality, and I'm talking about spirituality that's not confined through a religion or an institution. Maybe it is like you go for a walk in nature and you just commune with the trees and you commune with the earth. And these are ways that you feel grounded in all of the changes that are happening in the collective at this moment. So you've been having Mars transiting your first house. So Mars transiting the first house, you might have been feeling more active, or this sense of like, all right, we need to get shit done. On September 4th, Mars in Libra will square Jupiter in Cancer at 18 degrees. Now, Jupiter has been transiting your 10th house since June. And I've had a lot of Libra risings message me personally, being like, what the hell? I thought that Venus and Jupiter conjunction in Cancer was supposed to like bless me or whatever. And the thing about Jupiter and Venus, the two benefics in Cancer, is that this is like understanding feminine and masculine energy. This is understanding what Cancer energy really is about, which is emotional fulfillment. It's like an embodiment feeling of what does abundance and wealth and value and luck mean in an internal context. Okay. And I know a lot of people in capitalism don't really want to hear that, but sometimes things leave our lives, like a job or career, Like one person specifically said that she got fired from her job. Sometimes we wish for things and they come true in not the way that we think, but through Jupiter setting us free from something. Like for me personally, as a Sagittarius rising and Jupiter being my chart ruler, Jupiter always, every Jupiter transit that I've experienced at first was not pleasant because it set me free of something, a relationship, a job that was not in alignment with the wish that I had made. But in hindsight, that was the very thing that was a blessing. Do you know what I mean? So now with Mars in Libra in your first house, squaring to Jupiter, this is kind of a it's more of a difficult transit because there's some action that you want to take or you want something to happen, right? But Jupiter having the overcoming square is like, no. Um, Jupiter is also exalted, whereas Mars is in its detriment in Libra. So you might be in a situation where you really have to check your ego. Like sometimes the way in which you want things to happen is not going to happen for your highest good. And I say that obviously saying that is easier said than done because you might have wanted something to go your way, but Jupiter is like, no, it's not going to happen this way. But ultimately, what Jupiter's trying to do in your 10th house is expand your career. It's just trying to expand the ways in which you bring care and all the Cancerian things into your 10th house. The best way to use this energy is to ask yourself, how are you as a Libra rising being of service to the collective? Is what you're doing giving you emotional fulfillment? Is what you're doing bringing care to whatever your career, whatever you're doing is? And that might take a little bit of self-awareness, to be honest with you. On, let's see, where do we leave off? On September 6th, Uranus will station retrograde at 1 degree of Gemini. Now, like I mentioned, Uranus is transiting through your ninth house of foreign lands, of foreign travel. The ninth house is the house of God. So, this is where I think a lot of Libra risings might be interested in things like astrology or just really opening up your mind to different philosophical thoughts or spiritual practices or modalities, because Uranus is a disruptor and Gemini is of the mind and like being curious about things. So, any Libra risings who are interested in astrology, you can always sign up for my Astrology 101 Learn How to Read Your Natal Chart class. But yeah, having Uranus here at 1 degree, it would have given you a hint as to what your Uranus transit would have been like. But ultimately, I like this because Uranus in a fellow air sign is trying to you. So this is going to help you grow in some way. On September 7th, there is a total lunar eclipse at 2:08 p.m. Eastern Time at 15 degrees of Pisces. So this is a lunar eclipse happening in your 6th house. So you really want to understand what a cadent house is, which is the 6th. This is a full moon, so it's a completion, but it's a north node eclipse and it's trine to Jupiter in your 10th house, which is the ruler of this moon. So let's break this down. A lunar eclipse is a full moon. The lunar eclipse is like an ending, it's a release, but it's around the north node. So there is some level of needing to surrender here, to have faith here, to believe in the impossible, to believe and imagine what could be of your career, what you're known for. Okay, not everybody resonates with a career, right? Why did you come here? What is your purpose? What do you feel resonates with your soul? If it's not a job, is it something that you do that is offering something bigger, to bring meaning towards your life? And I really like that the ruler of this moon, which is Pisces, is that exalted Jupiter in your 10th house, your public house, and it is trine to that Jupiter. This is so supportive, and it's kind of saying like, whatever habits or self-sabotaging thoughts and behaviors are holding you back from this vision, this is the day to let it go. On September 13th, Mercury in Virgo will conjunct the sun in Virgo at 20 degrees. I absolutely love this transit for everybody. This is a Kazemi. Mercury is exalted in Virgo and it is being blessed in the heart of the sun. This is like an extra boost to an already exalted Mercury. And this is happening in your 12th house. The 12th house is such an interesting house because this is the time of day when the sun is rising. And so all of the stars and planets that were visible in the sky through a dark sky then kind of go hidden because the sun is rising. So the 12th house is a lot about like knowing something that's there, but not being able to see it. And so people who have a lot of 12th house placements end up being really great manifestors because they can almost feel what is there without even needing to see it. They are visionary people. They're able to see a future timeline. They're able to see something that most people can't see. So having a Kazemi here can give you incredible downloads. It can give you incredible insights into, like I said, like what you're co-creating with the universe at this moment. So this is a great day to mark on your calendar and set aside time to like be quiet, to visualize, and to just listen to what spirit is trying to tell you. On September 18th, Mercury will ingress into Libra. This is your first house. So you could just have all these like great ideas, epiphanies. Your mind might be more you might be making connections with people too. And just like wanting to share these ideas and downloads as well. On the same day, Mercury in Libra will oppose Neptune retrograde in Aries. So this is a day where, yeah, having Mercury in your first, but then opposing Neptune in your seventh house of partnerships, you could just have like conflicting views with a partner or somebody in your life. Neptune is the planet of imagination and our dreams. But ultimately, I think having this opposition, I know Neptune normally gives this feeling of confusion or fogginess, but Neptune's going retrograde. And so there's something that you are trying to reimagine or build new structures within your one-on-one relationships with. And Mercury opposing that Neptune is kind of testing that, is stress testing that. On September 19th, Venus will enter Virgo in your 12th house. Like I said, there's multiple planetary ingresses that are going to happen between your 12th, 1st, and 2nd this month. And Venus in Virgo is going to, just like, again, with Mercury going through your 12th, it's going to bring the topics of your 12th house more to the forefront of your mind. And Venus is your chart ruler. So when Venus, the chart ruler, is in the 12th, you could just feel this sense of responsibility towards people who are marginalized or kind of hidden from society. The 12th house also deals with places like hospitals and prisons and institutions where they're hidden from society, but we all know that they're there. So you just might have this like increased level of empathy for these people. Now, Venus is in its fall in the sign of Virgo. So again, this idea of your chart ruler being in its fall, being in the 12th house, you just, again, might have this feeling of like you really want to advocate for people who are marginalized or not seen or silenced in the collective. Now, having your chart ruler fallen like that, just be careful of your health and just focus more on nourishing yourself, getting enough rest, getting enough I would say intentional isolation and solitary. I was going to say solitary confinement, which is what you might be feeling. You might be feeling just like lethargic and not wanting to socialize and being on your own. But I think it's going to be necessary for you to recuperate and rest in this way during this season. And also having your ruler being in the 12th house. Okay, so moving right along, Mercury in Libra. On the same day, Mercury in Libra will trine to Uranus retrograde in Gemini at 1 degree, and also trine to Pluto at 1 degree of Aquarius. I really love this. And throughout that week of September, I would say like the third week of September, there's going to be this grand air trine between Mercury in your first, Uranus in your ninth, and Aquarius going through your fifth house. This is like, these are the Dharma houses in Vedic astrology. Dharma means purpose. So, all of this air energy, you might just feel really called to connect with people in your community, share ideas, start to birth something creative. But I really like this because, again, Mercury in Libra is about making connections with people, and Uranus has this like revolutionary, disruptive quality in Gemini, which is also an air sign, and Pluto in Aquarius, which is literally the signature of revolution. A lot of Libra risings will be able to connect with people, like-minded, heart-minded people in the collective, and create something new, maybe. So make sure that the third week of September, you're going out there, you're meeting people, and you're getting your ideas known. On, when is it? There is a solar eclipse on September 21st at 3:54 p.m. Eastern time at 29 degrees of Virgo. This is a solar eclipse that's happening in your 12th house. Now, you had a new moon here last August at 0 degree. And so having a solar eclipse here, you are really letting go of self-sabotaging thoughts, self-sabotaging behaviors, the ways in which you are limited by some unknown aspect, right? Like, what is your relationship to the unknown realms, unknown I would say aspects of your life? Are you able to surrender? Are you able to let go? Are you able to rely on something um that is bigger than you? And by bigger, I don't mean better. I mean like ancestors, spirit guides, the divine, whatever and whoever you believe in. Because sixth and 12th houses are the houses of they're cadent houses, right? So they're like what we know and what is in proximity to us. And I would, for all Libra risings during this eclipse season, I would really build an altar. I would really hone in on your rituals and pray. Build a relationship with your ancestors or your spirit guides, because what is being asked of you during this eclipse season is releasing really calcified ways of being and surrendering more to what you don't know and what you can't see versus what you can see. The reason why this partial eclipse in Virgo is a little challenging is because it's opposing in Saturn in Pisces in your sixth house. But again, I like the malefics and cadent houses. So there is some kind of tension here. I'm going to read out all of the transits and then we'll talk about it. September 22nd, Mars will ingress into Scorpio, which is your second house of your own personal finances and your resources. Then the sun will ingress into Libra, which is the fall equinox. Then the sun goes through your first house. Then the sun in Libra will oppose Neptune retrograde in Aries at 0 degrees. So that's your relationship sector. And then the sun in Libra will trine Uranus retrograde in Aquarius. And then the very next day on the 24th, the sun in Libra will trine Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. And Mars will square Pluto retrograde in Aquarius at 1 degree. Okay. All of this is pointing to something that you are personally building in your career. However, there is something happening around what it is that you're creating, what it is that you're trying to bring forth that is also in a conflict aspect to your personal finances and your resources. So a lot of Libra risings maybe when you were going through the eclipses yourself between 2023 and 2024, you might have changed careers. You might have had to pivot. You might have had to have let go of a lot of relationships that were just not serving you anymore. And now you're kind of recuperating, right? You're recuperating your finances. You're recuperating your relationships. You're recuperating your stance in the public sphere. If you have a public, I guess, platform. But whatever it is, whatever you're trying to create in this moment, it might have been a drain on your personal finances and resources. And I want to say that the way in which you can overcome this is asking yourself, what is my financial trauma? What are some of my scarcity and poverty consciousness thoughts or behaviors that are tied to my money? Mars going through your second house in Scorpio, right? And how am I allowing those old thoughts and behaviors dictating what I feel is I'm worthy of, that maybe is holding me back from truly allowing Jupiter in the 10th house, right? Because the 10th house is also what we birth out into the universe. What are some of those things that are holding me back from truly allowing this thing to grow and have seeds, and allowing myself to, and also allowing yourself to feel worthy of being supported by people, being supported by people who want to invest in your work, for example. So for Libra risings, the month of September, it might be challenging. You might have to come to a head with some of your old habits and old belief systems that are being asked to be eclipsed out of your life. But ultimately, if you keep asking for help, if you keep putting yourself out there and asking your community for support, and also working on some of your financial trauma and ways in which you're tying your worth to old poverty consciousness, you will get through this. I promise you. So good luck, Libra risings. I will see you in October. Bye.